Hi, everybody. Welcome to the digital edition of Overdrive. Hope you're having a great day. And have you subscribed to our YouTube channel already? If not, remember, we upload the latest reviews and road tests. So to get a notification, you have to subscribe. In just a few moments from now, Bert and Rohit will be joining us on the show. So you can use the comment section to send us your questions and we'll answer them soon. Let's start off the show with our latest comparison test, though. The two newest turbocharged petrol premium hatchbacks in the market are here with a twist. The Altroz i-Turbo is manual only, while the i20 Turbo is anything but, offering a clutchless manual or DCT only. Still, if you're looking for something with a little bit of fun built in it, which one do you pick? Simran Rastogi has the answer.
Now, this isn't a direct comparison, but these cars do have a common thread, and that's their turbo petrol hearts. The i20 is available not in a pure manual, but a clutchless manual, and the DCT we have here. The Altroz i-Turbo is brand new, and it's available with a 1.2-litre 3-cylinder turbo, but with a 5-speed manual only. We hear the DCT is coming much later. So while we definitely are going to revisit this test, then for now, it's i20 versus Altroz. In our eyes, the Altroz looks more substantial in the metal even though its dimensions aren't significantly larger. Cuts and creases work exceedingly well to catch attention, and the new marina blue shade helps too. As far as turbo variants go, there's not a lot to differentiate it from a regular Altroz, with that task assigned to a single badge. The i20 Turbo, on the other hand, gets specific detailing along with the requisite badges and looks a lot more hunkered down and sporty compared to the Altroz. Both have their own share of standout design touches, so this one is purely down to personal preference. For the i-Turbo's interiors, Tata has gone to a black and light grey shade, and it gets exclusive leatherette upholstery with Tata's new signature shape that looks and feels premium. The audio system tuned by Harman gains a couple of tweeters. On the i20, the all-dark interiors don't feel as airy, though the space is actually more than comparable. Some of the materials, especially on the door pads and dash, don't feel as nice as on the Tata, but then again, the large touchscreen infotainment makes it seem like a far more modern cabin. Then again, some of the controls, like those for the climate controls, do feel a lot more finished than that on the Altroz. Both have ambient lighting, with the i20s being more subdued, relatively at least, and finally, for the sunroof obsessed, the i20 would be your only option. Visibility in the Altroz is a little affected by the thick A-pillars in the twisties, and you can't adjust the steering for reach, which makes finding the perfect position in the i20 a lot easier. Given the much longer wheelbase of the i20, space isn't a massive step up from the Altroz, but it's noticeable enough from the rear seat. What's more surprising is that the less tall i20 actually has far more headroom thanks to the scooped out headliner. In terms of boot space, the Altroz has a slight advantage. Coming to the elephant in the room, the i20's pricing. Top variants are pricey but don't really leave you wanting for anything. Choosing an i20 in the same range as the Altroz i-Turbo does even things out quite a lot, with the scales tipping in the Tata's favour. The Hyundai i20 hasn't been crash tested as yet, while the Altroz has earned a commendable 5-star rating from the global NCAP, being the only premium hatchback to do so. In actual safety features, the i20 does come out on top though, with 6 airbags and electronic stability control on the top variants, while the Altroz is limited to 2 airbags across the range and what Tata calls corner stability control. One thing you'll notice straight away is that the Tata engine is noisier, and it sounds closer to what your idea of a 3-cylinder is. You hear it when you're accelerating through the gears, especially up towards the top, and even in that little pause that it takes between gear shifts, you can sort of tell that it's a 3-cylinder. That being said, the i-Turbo does build pace pretty quickly, but you do have to rev it out. There is nice power and torque available,
that you feel it only above 3000 RPM. While the Altroz does have displacement on its side, it's not got the highest torque rating, though its power rating is pretty comparable for the class, right up there in fact. But that torque does make its absence felt, especially when you're at lower speeds. You can feel the engine pick up only post 3000 RPM. So considering it's a very linear torque curve, Tata tells us they try to make it as flat as possible. So you don't really feel any turbo lag, but you do have to wait for it actually really come in and make you feel like you're building pace. Setting off in the i20, well, the first thing is I find it a little easier to get to the driving position that suits you. And just taking the gearbox out of the equation for a second, the Hyundai engine feels a little more refined under those 2500 revs mark. So that's basically your operating range in the city. Another thing that you'll much appreciate is just the fluidity of the steering. It's so butter smooth. Now it is lighter than the Altroz's, but it's not disconcertingly light where you feel like you're in a driving simulator and not a real car. Of course, this is very good in the city no matter who you are. If you're an enthusiast, you might like the extra weight, just that heft of the Altroz steering. Coming back to the engine, the NVH characteristics of this car just feel a little more refined, but of course we know this engine does get quite gruff when it starts nearing that 4,500-5,000 RPM mark. The good thing is you've got a very strong mid-range that you can utilize below that, which should keep you happy for most of the time. What we have seen is that the Hyundai turbo engine isn't as linear as the Tata's, which does mean that it gives you a little more of a pushback when you press the throttle down all the way. The DCT is absolutely perfect in the city. It's very intuitive. It knows exactly what to do. When you come out here to the twisties and you start asking a little more of it, it gets a little confused. Actually, the way to drive the i20 quickly is to be very, very smooth. Measure your throttle inputs and try not to go flat out all the time, because that's when the gearbox feels a little confused. When it comes to finding a flow, you could rely on the mid-range torque of the i20. This does have the advantage in terms of torque, even though it doesn't quite have the same peak power figure. But for most situations, you will feel that extra torque that the i20's got. If you don't think the Altroz looks like a more substantial car than the i20, just wait till you get behind the wheel, because this does feel substantially heavier than the i20. Of course, that's down to basically how the steering interacts with you. So there's a lot more weight to the steering. It's pretty well judged at low speeds, but there are times where you feel that it could have been just a touch lighter, especially when you're taking U-turns. Another highlight of the Altroz has always been its ride quality. While the body movements are well controlled, it's still pliant enough to take on a lot of this bad stuff. So mid-corner bumps, not an issue. Car does not get upset. While the ride and handling balance, the i20 is surprisingly good. It's very well balanced. The Tata Altroz i-Turbo, I think, just has the edge in terms of pliancy, and you notice it when you're taking a speed breaker and maybe take it a few kmph quicker than ideal. The way the car responds, the way the suspension at the rear rebounds, that shows you that there's just that little bit extra control in the Tata.
While we will have to wait a little while longer for the prices of the Altroz i-Turbo to come out, and thus for us to give you a definitive verdict, Between our experience of these two cars, we can definitely say that you get what you pay for in the Hyundai i20 in terms of overall refinement, overall speed, and the fact that you feel like you're driving something a little more special than a regular car. That being said, do stay tuned to our YouTube channel for the full verdict and the full Camaro review.
Well, as Simran mentioned in the story, this entire review will be up on YouTube as well, just when we get to know the prices. Let's get Bert and Rohit on the show, please. Hi, Rohit.
Hi, Sohini.
Sorry, I was
Hello,
just
Bert.
having lunch actually. It's been a busy day.
Oh, wow. At New York. Lovely. Early
A
dinner.
little too late in the day.
Early dinner, lunch. I know. Is there a word for lunch, dinner, and something else? Chai in between. So yeah, there goes my cup of tea as well. Hi guys.
Right,
Hi everyone out there.
Right, let's jump directly into the questions. We seem to have a couple regarding the story. The first question comes in from Vinay. He wants to know, is DCT as a gearbox durable?
Well, he's asked the question to you, Sohini.
Yes, but I would like to pass it on to you guys.
But Vinay Sharma, yeah, the DCT is a reliable transmission. There's never been a problem with it. At least not much that has come to India for that matter. There have been issues with the reliability overseas with the dual clutches, but overall we've not had that much of a concern in India. So yes, it's reliable. Most cars, I would say 99.99% of them have all worked well with the DCT without any major issues warranting replacements or repairs of any sort for that matter. So yeah, it is a durable gearbox.
Okay. Nitin wants to know, why has Tata detuned the torque figures in the Altroz, which is 140 Nm, compared to the Nexon, which was 170 Nm, which is?
Well, Nitin, this will probably be because of the mechanical changes that are required on the Altroz. Smaller car, it wouldn't require as much torque as the Nexon. Plus, it'll enable them to make a few more parts that I'm assuming a lot of things out here, but it'll allow them to make a few more low-cost parts that wouldn't really get affected by a higher torque rating and a higher torque output. The Nexon would require it because it's an SUV at the end of the day. And slightly different driving dynamics, so they would require a little bit more torque in the Nexon. But Altroz doesn't really require it. It's a city car at the end of the day, so 140 Nm should be good enough.
All right. Jitin here wants to know, for the i20's IMT transmission, is there any considerable delay in gear shifts at higher RPM?
Jitin, I've driven the IMT. I don't recollect there being any transmission delays for that matter, any lag in that transmission at higher RPM. Having said that, it's not like the quickest or the slickest gearbox that you would get. There is still a noticeable difference in the shift because you're still using the manual shift. You can get fairly quick responses for that matter. It's just a matter of taking time to understand how the gearbox operates. That is where the delays occur. Because you have to get your mind over that you're still using, the transit shift lever to shift between gears. Otherwise, there isn't any issue or nothing like a lag in gear shift at even higher RPMs.
All right. Sayuj here wants to know, what safety rating can be expected from the i20. i20 sports variant is value for money, as his budget is 9 lakhs.
What can we expect from the i20 safety rating? I think we'll have to wait for Global NCAP to give out a crash test rating for this. But I expect it will have a good and decent rating for that matter. Again, like most manufacturers in India claim to conform to Indian safety conditions. So whatever is prescribed in the Indian market, I mean, that's what you're going to get. Not more than that for that matter. But and which isn't a great sign, of course. Manufacturers should take that step and take that initiative to offer a little more in terms of safety. Well, it is what it is. Hats off to manufacturers like Tata Motors and Mahindra, who actually go above and beyond in making their safety systems, spot on. But in some of these cars, I think it's also necessary. In some of the cars where the safety rating is really high, I think it's also necessary that they be high, as good as they are, because I'm not entirely I wouldn't talk much about otherwise the dynamics and the way they are built otherwise and whether you'd be safe. Otherwise, these were not in those cars. So yes, it's best that those cars. Like I said again, safety ratings will depend on what global NCAP has to offer once they do the tests, for that matter. Otherwise, most manufacturers conform to Indian safety norms, and that's what you get. Now, the i20 sports variant is value for money, as my budget is 9 lakhs. Reasonably good value for money. You get most of the features that you would want on it. Of course, a small few touches over here and there, which essentially enhance the look and feel. The sports variant, keep in mind, is more of a cosmetic upgrade for that matter. There's a cosmetic difference. It's not like it offers you tremendously more performance or dynamics for that matter. It's largely to do with the cosmetics on that, a bit of addition or rather color upgrades on the front end, inside the cabin, on the upholstery, things like that. But is it value for money? I think you'd be just as happy with the regular i20, the other variants of the i20 as the sports for that matter.
All right. Jasim, you have joined our show a bit late. You've missed our story because you're asking us which vehicle is best. You can go back to this story once we're done with the show and check it out. Or you can wait till we put up this story completely on YouTube as well. Apurv has an observation. Basically, he says DCTs always have one clutch disengaged. It's like coasting with your clutch pressed and car in gear will advertently result in clutch wear faster than usual. Thus, the reliability issues with DCT.
Well, not entirely. Also, Apurva, that is not the case that clutch will wear out faster than the other. Again, this would really take a very, very long time for this to happen. Yes, there's a clutch that is engaged mildly because it needs to shift into another gear. So it is, yes, partially engaged for that matter, but it is built in such a way that it will last for much longer. I would say much longer, but almost as long as a regular clutch would. So that is really not an issue. That's reliability issues. It's not a reliability issue. It's just the nature of the DCT for that matter. So that is not reliability. I wouldn't say it's an issue as such, but it's just the way that the gearbox is designed and developed.
All right. Rohit, there's a question for you. Anish wants to know, will Honda come with the next generation Stunner 125?
Well, I doubt that. I mean, they have access to that name, and I think they should capitalize on that. But I doubt that. Now, with the Hornet going 2.0, there is room for another vehicle which can fill into the shoes of the previous Hornet. Of course, that was a bigger capacity motor as compared to what we've seen in the Stunner. But yeah, there is room for that. I'm not sure if Honda will bring out a motorcycle in that particular category at the moment, because the market also slowly is preferring, even in the power commuter segment, they're preferring something like a 150, a 160, maybe even a 180. So I think that is where their focus might lie at the moment, and that is where they have the X-Blade at the moment. So I'm not sure if it will come back, but yeah, there is space for it, and I think they could consider it, and they should maybe.
All right. Hemant says he has a 5-year-old car and he wants to hang on to it for the next 2 years and get an electric car in the next 2 years. The question, of course, is that in 2 years, will we see good infrastructure or charging stations?
I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
But I'll just take that. So I think we already have seen a major spike in the number of charging stations. Especially if you're staying. I don't know where you're coming from, and which city are we talking about here? But at least in the metros, at least in Bombay, Pune, the two cities that I'm exposed to most of the time, I'm seeing a lot of charging stations. If you've heard of the Bombay-Pune Expressway, there are a lot of charging stations, even on the fuel pumps. So there are company-operated fuel stations on this highway, and all those fuel stations now have proper charging stations. Some of them not yet completely operational, but it's just a matter of time before they are operational. Everything has been installed, and same is the case with both the metros. There are a lot of private charging stations, and most of the car makers who are now entering this electric space, MG, Tata, Hyundai, they all have charging stations at least their significant dealerships. Maybe not all dealerships, but at least the big ones, at least the 3S dealerships that they do have the charging stations. So I don't think infrastructure is going to be that big a problem. And higher up, the other side of the spectrum, where we are talking about players like Audi or Mercedes, they are now starting to even identify highway corridors where they would want to start setting up charging infrastructure. So 2 years is now definitely a time that you can look at. You can see a lot more happening in this space. So your plan of holding on to your vehicle for 2 more years and then jumping onto the electric bandwagon, I think it should be spot on, and you should start planning for it and start saving for it already.
Right. In our chats, he's mentioned he's from Hyderabad. So just to add that in.
So yeah, so he will have, there will be adequate charging facilities around in Hyderabad also for that matter. He'll have a better infrastructure than Bombay also. Let's admit that. I mean, we live in Bombay, but I think this place has got abysmal charging stations for that matter. Yeah, and here's one thing I think which a lot of people should now start respecting is that the charging stations also, for instance, Rohit, like you mentioned on the expressways. I have seen photographs of charging stations at the food malls, but the space in front of them is occupied by IC engine cars. And I think people should now realize that there are EVs that could be flying between Bombay and Pune for that matter also, and they require that space. So don't leave your cars parked in front of from an EV charging station. I've also seen the same thing happening inside some of the Adani offices for that matter, where they've got charging stations. That's the simplest way. Most of your local your electric board offices will have a charging station installed in there. At least I know Tata Power, Reliance, and Adani's have got them in. They are in quite a few of their offices. That's another option available to you. So yes, the infrastructure is coming in. The infrastructure is coming in fast, and so are the EVs also for that matter. We will definitely see some big movements in 2021, more in 2022 for that matter. But yeah, it's a good plan, Himakumar. Get ready. You can be the owner of an EV in a very short time.
All right. We have a question here from Sachi. Can we expect some ADAS features in the Volkswagen Tiguan?
I don't think so, Sachi. There are no features of the sort that I think would come on the Tiguan. It would really raise the price up. I don't think that's where they're looking to position that vehicle. So I know it's not going to be there. No.
Okay. Rohit, any news of upcoming adventure bikes in 2021 under 500cc?
Well, there is the TRK. The TRK will make a comeback. There's a smaller TRK that also is being talked about. So even that is something that we can expect. And last year there were some teasers of the Hero X-Pulse, or maybe the bigger X-Pulse that could come out with something between that 350 to 400 cc segment. So I'm not sure if it's going to happen in 2021, but they did show a teaser of the frame and the engine. And yeah, I mean, fingers crossed. Let's hope even that comes out. And yeah, that's about it that I know of so far. But I'm sure that this is a very lucrative segment that bike makers are looking at. And there could be something that Bajaj could be working on, especially after our chats with them about the Dominar and, the lack of a proper adventure tourer in their lineup, which is not a KTM. Even Bajaj is actively looking at that space. So yeah, there could be something, but what we definitely know is, like I said, the Benelli TRK is coming back, and there is a smaller TRK that has been in the works for quite some time, and 2021 could be the year that it finally comes to India as well.
All right. Here's a question from ABK. He wants to know why are most of the dual clutch transmissions that we see in Polo, i20, Compass, Petrol, DCT use. Why do they use dry clutch? Even though dry clutch is not good for the Indian road conditions, they heat up. Why not wet clutch?
Again, the dry clutch is a far more inexpensive form for production for that matter. So it makes it more affordable to own a transmission, or to have a transmission on smaller cars. It's a more affordable segment cars for that matter. That's the only reason why we use dry clutches instead of the wet clutches. Even though the conditions have not got much to do with it. There will be some amount of wear and tear that will happen because of the conditions that we live in, whether it's the dust or the heat for that matter, but it's not going to affect it even in the long run. It isn't so much of an issue. Anything that has to happen with these clutches, for that matter, will take a really long time, by which time you would have kind of used the car, sold it on, and then somebody else will use it. The life is fairly long for that matter, not as long as a regular manual clutch or a torque converter. But yes, it definitely is long and long enough for it not to affect your user experience at the end of the day. So again, why the dry clutch being used? Again, there is one of the biggest factors, of course, the cost bit.
All right. John Cole wants to know The new Compass diesel automatic versus the Skoda Karoq versus the Hyundai Tucson 4x4 diesel. His priority is safety, driving feel, and cabin finish. Maintenance and fuel are not important factors. Any other recommendations under 32 lakh rupees?
John, I can't answer this question for you right now because we haven't done the test as of yet, where all these three, the Compass Diesel, the Karoq, and the Tucson have been in that. But top of our heads, the Karoq's a great option for that matter in this segment. Again, because of the quality and the fitting finish and luxury that it's got. The driving feel, especially, also is quite impressive. The Compass Diesel, the new facelifted version, Rohit's just driven that recently. Rohit, you can tell us more about that.
Well, I certainly have, and I think it's a very good alternative to some of the compact luxury crossovers out there. But so is the Karoq. I mean, the Karoq, the moment you step into it, a miniature or a smaller sized Kodiaq, and the Kodiaq in itself, it has given some of the bigger German siblings of its own a run for their money, and that is how good that car is, and so is the Karoq. So in terms of the driving feel, I think I would go with what Bert just said. I think I would also go with Karoq, though I have a very big soft corner for the Jeep Compass. If taking expeditions, taking the route less travel, and all those cliched lines, they make a lot of sense to you. I think it's the Compass that you want to go with. It's a lot more robust in comparison to something like the Karoq or the Hyundai Tucson, at least in my books, and that is why I personally would go ahead, and if I had to put my own money, I would put it on the Compass, because the new one is just really that good. Nothing wrong with the old one either, but the new one just makes it even better with the kind of tech that they've put in, the kind of new infotainment system that they have, the new features that they've brought to the table. So all of that just makes it a more convincing buy at the moment. So I would put my money on the Compass. But if you want that slightly more luxury quotient with your vehicle, is the Karoq that you would want to go for.
All right. Pranshu here wants to know, is Maruti Suzuki Swift better than the Hyundai i20 in terms of performance?
Pranshu, I'm not sure. I don't think the Swift is better than the i20 in terms of performance. It again, first of all, keep in mind that one, it comes into a smaller segment. It is a light car. It's got great dynamics, not to mention that. But so does the i20. It's got phenomenal dynamics. I think your question effectively raises a question to us as to why not do the test and comparison, and I'm sure we'll definitely get onto it also. But just from the top of my mind, no, the i20 will be a slightly more dynamically competent car than the i20 than the Swift. The Swift has got great flexibility, brilliant to drive in urban conditions, but the kind of security, the stability that the i20 gives you also is absolutely brilliant. Again, very, very close to what the Polo would offer you in terms of dynamic stability. So that's how good the i20 is. The Swift, lots of fun, but doesn't have that. On the performance front, I'll have to come back to you. We have to test both the cars back to back to see what exactly either has to offer.
All right. Rohit, Praful is planning to buy a Triumph Street Twin, but he's also confused with the Bonneville T100. He's also worried about no tubeless tires in it. What would you suggest?
Well, Praful, that's a very good thing to be worried about, honestly, because this is where you have to decide what do you want. You want the form or the function, and here you're talking about safety, because with those spoke wheels of the T100, yes, you are not going to get tubeless tires. There are some aftermarket options available where you can do like a tubeless conversion, but they are not very reliable. We've tried it on some of the bigger adventure motorcycles, like even Bert's Tiger XCA for that matter, and it doesn't really work that well. A proper tubeless wheel is a proper tubeless wheel that can go with a good tubeless tire. So yes, it's a big concern. And that is one reason why I wouldn't choose the T100. I would go with the Street Twin myself. But again, you have to, like I said, you have to choose between function and form. If that form, that classic look of the T100 is what appeals to you more than the slightly more modern look of the Street Twin, then yeah, you have to make that choice. But if you would rather rate safety, which I think you should, if you rate that higher than the form of the motorcycle, the Street Twin is a better buy.
All right, and here's one more motorcycle question coming in from Daniel. He wants to know, what is your take on rumors on the X-Pulse with a bigger engine and the Himalayan with a bigger engine?
Well, Dodo, I just answered the X-Pulse bit. They did sort of tease the the new frame of the upcoming bigger X-Pulse, or whatever they want to call it. There could be a 350cc, a 410cc, a 401cc. You know, there are a lot of rumors about it. It's certainly in development. They are going to bring learnings from their Dakar experience down to this motorcycle, and the overwhelming response that they've got for the X-Pulse has certainly been encouraging to, you know, take this project up. And there are some big names working on this particular project. So we have big expectations. So yes, it's certainly on. That project is certainly on. I'm not sure if it's going to happen in 2021, though I sure hope it does. But I'm guessing it would be delayed until 2022 at least, is what it looks like as of now. As for the Himalayan, even that project is on, is what we've heard. But again, we have been hearing too many things. You know, these are rumors again, no concrete information coming from the company straight up. There was news about the 650cc parallel twin engine being developed into an adventure motorcycle. Though apparently the low end torque wasn't good enough, and you know, they've hit some roadblocks there. So we don't know if that engine is going to see the light of day when it comes to an adventure motorcycle form or an application. And again, the 500cc single cylinder engine was also being talked about, or thereabouts, you know, that kind of capacity. But apparently they are unable to get the BS6 emissions, or maybe even go for something even cleaner, because the emissions will progress from here on. The standards will progress from here on. So they may not be able to achieve those kind of emission standards with a single cylinder with that 550cc capacity. So there are quite a few roadblocks, is what we hear in that particular project, the bigger Himalayan project. But you never know. I mean, Royal Enfield has gone on record and told us that there will be a new motorcycle coming out every quarter from them now. And we can expect motorcycles in all body styles and all genres that Royal Enfield is famous for. So I'm sure there could be a bigger or a much better Himalayan than what we have in the market right now. So yeah, like I said, this is the more lucrative space right now for all manufacturers to target. And there's certainly something coming from Hero and Royal Enfield in this segment going forward.
All right, guys, you keep your questions coming. We'll just run through the news from this week and we'll get back to answering all of your questions. Firstly, let's start off with the long wheelbase version of the BMW 3 Series, which is launched in India starting at 51.50 lakh rupees for the 330i Li luxury line, and 52.50 lakh rupees for the 320 diesel variant. There's a limited run on the 330 Li M Sport variant, which can be availed for an introductory price of 53.90 lakh rupees. Just a quick reminder, we have a full-fledged review of this sedan across our social media accounts on YouTube as well. You can head into either one and check it out. Up next, Mercedes-Benz has launched the updated GLC at a starting price of 57.4 lakh rupees. The upgrade includes the latest generation connected car tech from the brand that integrates Alexa Home, Google Home, and parking lots have also been added to the MBUX system, which will show up as part of the listed places of interest. The bigger news is that the GLC now gets massage seats up front. The parking camera too has been updated to a 360-degree camera system. Moving on, the base variant of the Skoda Rapid has been relaunched in India at rupees 7.79 lakh rupees, and now the Czech brand has ramped up production to deal with demand flow. The Rapid Rider is available in 2 color options, candy white and carbon steel. Volvo India earlier this week has opened online advance bookings for the all-new S60, starting at an introductory price of 45.9 lakh rupees. This offer is only applicable to a limited number of bookings made online. Deliveries of the cars will start by mid-March. That's also when the sedan will officially launch in the country. And coming to Maruti Suzuki, it has finally started exports of the locally produced Jimny to South America. The export spec 4x4 Jimny is powered by a 1.5-liter K15 petrol engine that we're familiar with on the Brezza, Ciaz, and the S-Cross. There's still no word from Maruti Suzuki indicating this niche SUV could be considered for the Indian market. And staying with news from Maruti Suzuki, customers of the Maruti Suzuki Arena can now avail of the Maruti Suzuki Smart Finance, which up until now was only available to Maruti's Nexa customers. The MS Arena customers will now be able to get their loans digitally approved on the Arena website if they purchase a car. The company will be offering multiple bank options for the pre-approved loans on this portal, as well as customizable EMIs and loan status trackers. But I think...
Sorry.
Right. So, Bert, I'll toss it on to you for this particular announcement from Stellantis, basically getting FCA Group and PSA together.
Well, it's a big plan. It's a huge plan. Consolidates a lot of their operations. We just recently saw the Citroen announcement, or not announcement as such, but we were recently speaking to Citroen, and for that matter, they also said that a lot of this right now is just an announcement. The actual development, the way this will progress forward, that execution has still to be put into place. So we will know in some time what exactly is happening, and firmly know what is the route and what is the way they are executing this entire plan. But it's a great thing for the Fiat Chrysler group, for that matter, to have taken a step like this, because it brings a lot more in terms of budgets, in terms of money to the table. It consolidates a lot of that, the revenues for that matter. It also consolidates a lot of the technology and the development work that has to be done in the future. Now, like it says with it makes them the fourth largest car maker. That's not a small feat. It opens up a lot of markets. Having said that, the focus largely is on North America, South America, and certain European markets for that matter for the group, because that's where they have a very, very large presence. But again, they have a presence in India as well, so they are going to try and push harder for that. They have a presence in China. They're going to push much harder on that. Some other Southeast Asian markets as well is another opportunity for them, for the group as a whole, to kind of to explore and to expand their base. So all of this opens up in a much bigger manner for Stellantis. But let's see how it goes forward. We don't know at this point in time how exactly and what kind of routes are they going to take. What are the nitty-gritties of this entire deal, and what does it bring to our market, for instance? That's not clear as of now. This will still take some time. Right now, it's just all of the initial announcements that have happened. But I think in the next, it will take at least a year or 2 years for everything to kind of fall into place and then progress.
All right. But here, Sachi wants to know, does that actually mean that both the Compass and C5 Aircross now belong to the same company?
Well, yes, Tachi, this effectively means that both the Compass and the C5 Aircross belong to the same company. They all come under a single umbrella. This is similar to how Hyundai and Kia are positioned, for that matter, in the Indian market, or cars from Volkswagen or Skoda, for that matter. Even though it's called Skoda Auto Volkswagen India Private Limited, it's still under the same the Volkswagen. It's still under that one particular umbrella. So these associations, this has been in the news, or rather, this has been developing for the last few years, almost 5 to 6 years. Maybe even longer for that matter, almost a decade back, where these kind of associations will look forward to with a lot of interest, because there are several advantages to this. One, keep in mind, it opens up newer markets for either of the partners, or for whoever is a part of this association. It opens up new markets for them. It brings in development costs down considerably, because most manufacturers are now looking at how they can make manufacturing cheaper, the R&D cheaper. And by doing this as a consolidated group, it makes it far more affordable for them to invest, whether it's engine development, whether it's transmission development, whether it's chassis, powertrains, whatever it is for that matter. It makes it far more easier, because the cost is shared between these three or four partners in this entire association. And that way, there are several other advantages to this as well. So, yes, it definitely means like the Compass and the C5 Aircross will now belong in the future to the same, will come under the same umbrella, not belong to the same company. At the end of the day, all these companies, all these associations, under these associations, they all work in their individual capacities, looking for best ways to maximize profit, to get out the best products that they can as well. So it's quite possible that Citroen will continue to make its own kind of products and put them out in the market, but there will certainly be some synergies between maybe parts that we don't really see. Suspension components, it could be chassis components, it could be transmission components that you may not see on the face of it, but they will share these parts for that matter at the end of the day. So some of these kind of how would I say, synergies will definitely happen. You won't notice it, you won't see it. It doesn't mean that the C5 Aircross or something that Citroen comes out in the future will be a sister vehicle to what Jeep has to offer for that matter. They could be two entirely individual and different products, because the two companies have got very, very different, how would I say, characteristics, very, very different ideologies for that matter. Citroen is hard pressed on the whole comfort and luxury element, whereas Jeep is on the whole adventure, ruggedness, off-roadability of their vehicles. So these might not overlap. They might still go their individual ways. But yeah, like I said, underlying some elements will overlap.
Rohit, you've in fact driven the C5 Aircross. So Sujashish wants to know that will this be a one car wonder from the brand? I think you're mute, Rohit.
In fact, not at all. I think it will be the sign of things to come from Citroen. I mean, this is going to be the flagship product, but they are also developing something that is specific for the Indian market, and then they're also looking at bringing products from the international portfolio down to India. And I think that is what has me excited because, like Bert just mentioned, that this car maker comes with their own ideologies. They have luxury and the seating comfort and the ride quality right at the top of their game, and they have a completely different design language compared to what we've seen on many other cars. It doesn't look like anything else on the streets, and that is going to be another strong point for it. So I don't think it's going to be a one car wonder. Of course, the Indian market is not a very easy market to operate in, and Citroën very well knows that. In fact, that is why sustainability is the keyword for them with their Indian operations. That is why right from day one, they want to make sure that there is more than 90% localization for the C5 Aircross. So they are taking their steps. They don't want to go all out and then just fall on their face. They want to take measured steps, and that I think is a very nice way to do it because we've seen some big brands just enter the market, all guns blazing, and then run out of ammunition and have nothing to show and nothing to talk about. These guys don't want to do it. They want to do it differently. Of course, everyone says the same thing, that we want to do things differently. We will do things differently. It's just something that we'll have to wait and watch. But I certainly don't think, from whatever I've seen from the brand and their product portfolio, I don't think this is going to be like a one-hit wonder. I think the C5 will establish them very well. It is coming at the slightly higher end of the price point. I'm guessing it could be a little higher than what we've seen from the Creta or the Seltos in terms of the pricing. It will lie somewhere between these two cars, and something like the Compass or the Tucson is going to be in that sweet spot. And I'm guessing that it will be able to get quite a few takers for it, for everything that it has to offer. Now, that said, we are going to be driving the India spec car very soon. First week of Feb is where we are invited to drive the car, and we'll be able to tell you a lot more. But yeah, to answer your question once again, no, it's not going to be a one-hit wonder. I'm expecting a lot to come from Citroen.
And Rohit, can you take us through the motorcycle news for this week?
Of course, I'll do that. So let me just pull it up. Just give me one sec. Okay, so I think the biggest news, of course, is Hero. It's coming in from Hero MotoCorp, and they have just rolled out the 100 millionth vehicle. 100 million. I mean, that's a huge number for anyone to boast about. And they've done exactly that. The 100 millionth vehicle was an Extreme 160R that rolled out from their plant, and it's created history for the brand. We all know that it's a loved brand. We know that it's gone through a lot of ups and downs in terms of starting off with Honda, and then Honda exiting from the JV, and a lot of people questioning where will Hero go from here on. And they have silenced all their critiques. They've proven what they can do, and by delivering this 100 millionth vehicle, or rather rolling it out, I think they've spoken a lot. And there you see the king of Bollywood, Shah Rukh Khan, signing these motorcycles, autographing them, and these are going to be some limited edition vehicles that will be these will actually be delivered to some lucky customers. So that is certainly happening. And as a part of these celebrations, Heroes also announced that they will launch 10 products every year for the next 5 years. So that's 50 new products from the brand. Of course, these will include some refreshed models, some facelifted models, some updates to the existing lineup, and some all motorcycles like the upcoming 400cc adventure bike that we are talking about. So there is a lot that is going to happen from the Hero front. We know of them as makers of some excellent commuter motorcycles, and now they're also looking at the enthusiast end of things very actively and delivering on that as well. So there is a lot that we expect out of them. Now, talking about the future, Ola's been in the news every now and then for their electric two-wheeler. We already know that they've tied up with Etergo, and they're bringing an electric scooter to the Indian market very soon. And now they have signed a JV with Siemens, the German brand, for the production or the production technologies, the processes. So fine-tuning of all of that and using technologies for all of that is something that will happen with Siemens going forward. And they are, in fact, talking about setting up the biggest plant for electric two-wheelers in the Indian market. And that is a big claim. And with the Etergo thing happening, and Ola also wanting to deliver on a very affordable electric two-wheeler for the Indian market. There is a lot that's happening, and this JV is certainly going to be something that they will sort of incorporate and make sure that the processes, the build quality, all of that is up to the mark of what you would expect of an electric two-wheeler in today's day and age. Because also remember, there are a lot of startups that are entering the space, who bring in new technologies, who bring in new perspectives to this space. And then you have the traditional players also entering the space, who will bring in the reliability, who will bring in the brand name. So Ola has to sort of, target both these ends, the startup end as well as the traditional end, and then also deliver a product that meets all these expectations from the consumer. So, all the noises that they're making about the kind of JVs that they're doing, or the kind of processes that they're incorporating, and the kind of people they're hiring, I think it's all in line with, something big. So we have a lot to expect from Ola two-wheelers, or the Ola electric two-wheelers that we will have coming soon. And the third bit of news is the Honda Grazia Sports Edition that was launched earlier this week. It's launched at a price of 82,654 rupees. Of course, it retains the design and the features and mechanicals that we've seen so far, but it gets new decals and graphics. That's something that was expected, and that will also make it look like a newer product. The ground clearance, however, has been increased by 16 millimeters, and the underseat storage and the storage in the front apron area has been reworked to make it a little more spacious than before, is what the press release tells us. We haven't got our hands on the scooter just yet, but hopefully we will certainly have this scooter on test, and we'll have a review for you on overdrive.in. So I think that wraps up the two-wheeler news for us this week.
So, Rohit, I have a question. Rohit, I have a question for you here. When you're going on about the whole Ola bit and the electric scooters coming out and all this. And here's my, not I would say question, but here's my comment on the whole thing, as well as what else is happening, is that I see a very quick, for Ola to come and step into this segment and then to promise something in the time span that they're promising to deliver. It can only mean that they've taken a Chinese product, repackaged the whole thing, and then offer it to the Indian consumer. And essentially, that is what is happening with a lot of manufacturers who come into the market in the two-wheeler EV space, for that matter, who've taken existing Chinese products, bought the entire thing, lock, stock, and barrel from there. It might be the dice, but then repurpose the whole thing for Indian conditions and sold it off, saying it's a made in India product at the end of the day. And is that going to be the case with Ola Electric as well? Because then, I mean, it's sorry to say so, but development of a scooter does not take place that easily, or a two-wheeler for that matter also. It's not an easy job, it's not a simple job. It takes years and years to develop something that is till it's out and ready for the market. Look at Bajaj's case, for example. I mean, it's taken them years to develop and get a scooter ready that would be good for them to offer in the Indian market. Look at Ather as an example as well. It's taken them quite some time to actually establish and make and develop a product that is ready for them to offer. It wasn't something that they picked out from somewhere and then offered somewhere. We've also seen several other manufacturers coming in with products that are made in China. What is your opinion on the whole bit? And what do you think Ola is going to be doing?
Right. I think Ola is taking a similar route. However, the Etergo name that keeps coming up, it's an Amsterdam-based firm, and the Etergo scooter that they showed a couple of years back, it's been received very well. It's a very premium electric scooter, so to say, but the price that Ola would want to target for the Indian market obviously is not going to be in line with what Etergo is. People are not going to spend lakhs of rupees on an electric scooter in the Indian market. So, especially for a brand that's completely new, even though it's Ola. And that is where the challenge really lies for them, that they are taking technology from there, but they'll also have to bring in the Indian price point. They'll have to target the Indian price point and bring the cost down to that price point. And we've seen that even traditional manufacturers find it difficult. Someone was asking about the possibility of ADAS on a Volkswagen product. While it's easy to do, it's very easy to say that, it's just easy to do. You already have the tech, but to bring it down to the cost that the Indian buyer will be willing to pay for that particular product, that's where the whole challenge lies. And, that is where brands find it extremely difficult to even sustain in the Indian market. So what you are saying, the question that you've raised is absolutely right. Yes, Ola is taking that route, though instead of bringing stuff from China, they are going with Etergo, who has sort of established the product and proven the product in the European scheme of things. How it works in the Indian scheme of things is something that remains to be seen. But of course, it's not going to be easy. And we are seeing a lot of other startups doing the same thing, bringing in Chinese technology and just repackaging it and selling it to the Indian audience. So people who are not in the know are still going to be a little bit on the back foot of whether they should go with a brand that they don't know of. And the only thing that we know of Ola so far is essentially the taxis, right? The fleet, the shared cabs, the shared mobility. And here we are talking about a scooter which may also be entering that shared mobility phase and also be targeting end users. So I don't know how the market's going to react to it. What price bracket are they exactly targeting? How are they going to change the consumer mindset? How are they going to make the consumer not look at established brands that you just talked about, like Bajaj or Ather or even Hero or TVS, who are actively looking at this space? It's going to be a difficult game, but it's an exciting space to be in. So that is why I said that they're making all the right noises about something very big coming to the Indian market. Whether they deliver on that is something that remains to be seen.
You have to say it's a bold claim, right? To make the world's largest scooter factory, which is quite something. So we'll just, I guess, have to wait.
Yeah, that's the whole that's the whole point of this. It's a very, very simple thing for anyone to come up into this market without any backgrounder to this, and because you're taking a scooter from someone who's kind of taken probably a design from somewhere or the other, and it's all rehashing this into an endless supply chain. It's very simple for anybody tomorrow, for that matter, to come up with deep enough pockets, set up a factory, set up a plant, set up a distribution network, set up a service network, and offer a product to the market without really, having the kind of bandwidth that most manufacturers in this space. We're talking about something that is a mobile device, for that matter, and it's not easy to make these. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of understanding. It takes a lot of know-how. This isn't just a marketing job, but who's got the best marketing campaign, who can sell the most scooters or two-wheelers or four-wheelers, for that matter. There's a lot of work that goes into making these vehicles. It's not the simplest of things. And then to just see people coming out of nowhere and saying, tomorrow I'm going to set up the world's largest plant. I mean, this is not a peanut factory at the end of the day. So that definitely raises a lot of questions for me.
And I think one of the bigger challenges that will sooner or later arise is when the government starts putting standards in place, in terms of the safety, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of what kind of components you can use, in terms of the batteries themselves. And once all that starts coming into place, then it will be interesting to see on whether it's going to be as easy as it is right now, just bringing in the motors, just bringing in the powertrain from China and just making your own product like it was a DIY. So it's not going to be easy, with all the new standards. And sooner or later, they will be the government will have to put them in place. And once they do, I am really intrigued to see how the whole thing shapes up. I think that is where the traditional manufacturers or the bigger brands will again have an upper hand, because that is where all the rigorous testing will come into play. That is where all the making sure that all these standards are met, making sure that all these safety norms are met, all that will come into play. Because case in point, we have seen Benelli, right? We have seen Benelli being one big Italian mark and then going into Chinese ownership, and then coming up with motorcycles that were also available with different brand names on AliExpress. It was literally like that. Or you could buy that particular the BN600i or the TNT 600 that we know it. You could buy that motorcycle unbranded off AliExpress in a certain lot. So that is essentially something similar that's happening to electric vehicles as well. You can literally just buy the chassis and the powertrain with the bodywork if required, and just put your own branding on it and sell it as whatever you want. Yesterday, if I had the money, I could literally import.
Which is fundamentally my problem. It's not about guys who are coming and saying, let me start with a passion, coming into this and saying, we're going to make a great two-wheeler company. For them, for a lot of these guys, it's now, we're going to make a great startup. And that's
absolutely right.
My biggest issue is. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's great. I mean, you're creating employment, you're getting business, you're generating revenue. Fantastic thing. But that sort of passion that comes into this, where a lot of, in the past, whatever you see, where two-wheeler manufacturers or four-wheeler manufacturers have been there, have come in from single-owned people who had the passion for building cars, for engineering, for developing two-wheelers, motorcycles, scooters, and stepped into that space and then built up companies from scratch to where they stand today. They were not giants once upon a time. They may be giants now, but it's taken them a long process and it's taken the long time. Right now, the whole process is a very formulaic thing. Let me add, it's like making a cocktail, a martini or a screwdriver for that matter. I'm not sure who's going to get screwed at the end of the day, but yeah, this is essentially what it is. Two parts
That's
vodka,
absolutely
one
right.
part Cointreau, and something else, and you've got a cocktail ready, and that's essentially what uh, EV manufacturing is devolving into.
But
But
what I would,
the only difference is that someone makes that cocktail and the customer's sitting right across the bar table and they're buying it. There's no
Unfortunately,
one
yes.
putting that standard in place, right? But the moment BS6 came into play, where are the Benelli motorcycles? Where are those Chinese bikes? They're gone because they never met those standards. So the same way,
Absolutely.
if the government were to put some standards, some safety procedures, or some filtration system, in place, all these could be just wiped out the next day. So you
Very
never
right.
know. I
Absolutely.
mean,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I get your point. But yeah, for most customers, I think the cocktail, I mean, it's a tasty thing. You take a Jägermeister, put some Red Bull into it, light it on fire. Man, that's a rocking party gonna
That's
happen.
that's that's Friday night vibes kicking in for
That's
Bert
Friday
already.
night. You guys, yeah. You got your Jägermeisters and your Red Bulls and your vodkas.
right.
Right.
But what I don't think you can ignore the fact that Ola has done pretty well for itself in the business itself with, as a startup, and it's established itself as a good brand. I know what you're saying, that you
No, which is
want
fair
people who
enough.
are
And it's a monopoly
enthusiastic.
market in any case. It is a monopolized market. I mean, the only two players in that space, and it's a huge space, but there isn't a third player coming in for that matter. It's just Ola and Uber fighting for the market for the share of the market. The others are kind of marginal players on the side. So there is a monopoly in this. So success, I wouldn't really say. I mean, yes, between if you look at Bajaj today, for instance, or you look at TVS today. I mean, you're fighting against some of the biggest giants, MNCs globally. You've got a Honda, you've got a Hero, you've got so many other manufacturers are stepping into the space. So yes, in that sense, then you've got someone doing really well. Uh, there's some amount of success. There's some amount of ratification of that success. There is some amount of respect for that success also because it is really hard earned. In this case, it's a great idea. Volumes were there. That's how most of the startups work. There is a great market for it. There's great potential. There's great investors who come and rush and push money. Startup and then take that ahead. Sorry, getting calls in. It's been a busy day, but yeah, sorry. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's a very formulaic or a very simple thing for a lot of guys to do. It's not the generation of money. As recently we reading somewhere, it's not the generation of money that's the tough part. It's how you going to give back that becomes far more challenging. And in that sense, I don't think a lot of the new players who are coming into the segment essentially have an idea of how they're going to be giving back. And I don't really see how these are going to operate over a over a long term. What is the plan for making a motorcycle? Why is everyone stepping into the scooter market at this point in time? Make an electric motorcycle. Let's see what happens then.
And it's not just for India, it's also to be exported, right? So that's the bigger plan for them. They want to export it to Australia, New Zealand,
We are definitely utilizing the fact
Japan.
that India is a fairly good
So
base
to
of
make in
operation.
India, basically, make in India for the world. That's the next slogan that everybody is adopting. So I guess as many Indian players as they can be.
So
Uh,
in a way, we want to be the next China that makes all the Chinese goods for the rest of the world. So that's our goal in life. We want to be the next China.
Yeah.
all right. On that note, let's take a couple of more questions from people. Rohit, Yash wants to know, would you recommend the Duke 390 as a beginner's bike?
Well, yes, I would say that it's better you start off with something a little less powerful. Of course, every rider is different, every person is different, and the learning curve would be different for different people, different age. So I can't just generalize and say that yes, it's a good motorcycle or no, it's not a good motorcycle. Though from my personal experience, I would say that you start off with something that's a little smaller, maybe something like a 150 or a 200, and then you graduate further up the ladder for the 390 and maybe the bigger motorcycles, the multi-cylinder motorcycles from there on, because the 390 is still fairly powerful. It's a motorcycle that is the ire or the pride of a lot of people who get to track days as well, because these motorcycles can keep up with the biggies, and at the same time these motorcycles can be irritating for the big motorcycles out there on the track. So that sort of tells you that the power is in the sweet spot. If you utilize it well, you can really master it very well, and you can make the most of it. But if you don't utilize it well, or if you decide to abuse it, it can always turn back and bite you back. So this is one of those segments where it could go either way, which is why I would say a 150 or a 200, it's a little more forgiving. in that sense. So depending on the body style you're looking at, since you've mentioned Duke, I'm guessing you're looking at a street motorcycle. So something like maybe a Dominar 250 is also not a bad bike to start off with. Or maybe you could look at something like the Apache RTR 200. I think that's an excellent motorcycle, and now with the riding modes and with the adjustable suspension, it will also teach you a lot of things, in terms of setting up your motorcycle, in terms of riding your motorcycle, extracting the most out of that motorcycle. So I would myself recommend going with something like the Apache RTR 200 to start off with.
All right, we have a question here from Rakesh Kumar. He wants to know, is any car manufacturer serious about hydrogen-based cars?
Well, globally they are, yes. But again, just
What
the way we...
your audio.
Sorry, go ahead, Rohit.
Yeah, so I think globally they are, especially the Japs have been jumping onto the whole hydrogen fuel cell technology, and they've been doing good at it. They've been doing good at it as well. But just the way we keep complaining about the lack of infrastructure for EVs, it's the same thing. I mean, you don't have enough hydrogen pumps around to get your refill of hydrogen. So yes, it is a technology. I think it is the most sustainable technology of the future, but it's still some time away. I'm guessing at least 10 years before it starts going mainstream. And I'm not talking about the Indian market. I'm talking about the global market. So it's still going to be much longer for it to come to the Indian scheme of things. But that said, Hyundai has been testing the hydrogen fuel cell powered Nexo in the Indian market for some time now, just to get an idea of how the vehicle performs on Indian roads in the Indian conditions. So yes, that is the technology of the future, but not something that's going to happen tomorrow.
So also keep in mind over here, the challenge is not the vehicle itself. Making a hydrogen fuel cell car is a fairly simple job. Everyone can do it. Anyone can do it for that matter. The challenge is right now with storage of hydrogen, availability of hydrogen, storage of hydrogen for that matter, and how can it be, disbursed for public use. So that is where the challenge lies, and that is what most developers of the hydrogen fuel cell car, the FCVs, are trying to understand and create. Those solutions are still forthcoming. It will take some time. Yes, there is some development work. Rohit, also for that matter, there is a lot of development work happening in India on hydrogen fuel cells for that matter. So yes, it may not be 10 years, it may be earlier. I do know the government is already pushing that agenda forward as well. We want to be one of the earliest promoters of the FCVs for that matter, because again, the market for EVs is kind of, or rather the battery technology and the battery raw materials is shrinking. There aren't too many opportunities for India to kind of step up into that space as yet. But hydrogen is a freely available element, and it can make a lot more business sense for India. So we are already chugging ahead on that front. So yes, you might see something sooner than later for that matter. Sony, I can't hear you.
Sorry. Keshav wants to know, is Mercedes planning to bring the A-Class hatchback or the AMG A35, A45, since they are bringing the A-Class sedan to replace the CLA?
Well, there will be plans, Keshav, to bring something or the other. Maybe the AMG will definitely could come in. I'm not saying definitely, sorry. Perhaps the AMG could come in, but keep in mind they've got a 15-car lineup for this year. It's a lot of products that they've got in store, and they already announced quite a few, or rather at least introduced quite a few products last year and the year before that. So model year, and I'm not counting these as model year life cycle changes or facelifts or things like that. A lot of these are absolutely no products. So it's possible that the A35 could come down to India. Let's keep fingers crossed. Let's see what they have to offer. As of now, they haven't really told us what those plans are. We do know some of those products that are coming out in the next few months, but one of them is, of course, the A-Class, yes, but not whether the AMGs are there in that plan.
All right. Here's a question from Arshad. He wants to know what's stopping Tata from getting the 6-speed transmission on the Altroz from the Nexon. 6-speed is any day better than the 5-speed from the EV2 generation Indica.
Well, again, it's a cost factor, Arshad. It's nothing else. People wouldn't mind paying a little more for the Nexon because of the perception that it's an SUV, bigger car, more car. So yes, we can pay a little bit more. When we come back to a hatchback, for that matter, there's always a challenge of trying to make it more cost efficient and ensure that there are more consumers who are attracted to them that price appeals. So that's one of the principal reasons again why the regular the 5-speed is there on the Altroz rather than the 6-speed from the next one.
All right,
And Arshad, your
Bharat,
question should be what is stopping Tata from getting 6 airbags into the Altroz? Come on, it's got a 5-star rating, but it should still come with 6 airbags. I think that is also very important.
all right, Bharat here wants to know any car suggestion under 7 lakh rupees of petrol variant.
Well, Bharat, I'd suggest just go down to the Overdrive website, www.overdrive.in. We've got a fantastic new website up, and a lot of my data is now just coming in from there also. I'm actually on the other end just looking for everything that I would want to know. That's what it looks like. I don't know if you can see this, but there it is. That's a new look Overdrive website, and a lot of the information that you would want is right there. Get into the search engine, find out whatever you want, and it will throw up all the options for you. The sub 7 lakh bracket has got a lot of options for that matter. So yeah, you can definitely look at those. Once you have a more specific question, just don't come to us with the 7 lakh petrol gun. Give us a few more specifics, and we'll probably be in a better position to advise you on what to buy. What else are you looking for? Better dynamic car, better interiors, more features, better ride quality, safety. What is it exactly? Please specify on those counts.
All right, Bharat, if you're live with us, you can just mention those in the comment section. We'll get back to you. Here's a question from Kabir. He wants to know what are the advantages or disadvantages between a hydrogen and electric car?
Again, Kabir, there is no difference between a hydrogen or and electric cars. Again, the hydrogen FCVs are electric cars at the end of the day. It's just the source of fuel that changes. In an EV, you're charging up the batteries using electricity generated from nuclear plants, from hydroelectric power plants, from coal-fired power plants, and that's essentially the biggest challenge, the bigger problem right now, because these aren't renewable sources for that matter, and power plants that use coal, for that matter, coal-fed, are polluting. So it isn't the ultimate solution at the end of the day. Hydrogen is a fuel source, is the source of fuel. It is generated from water at the end of the day. So that is a renewable source. Hydrogen fuel cell cars, again, they burn hydrogen, and again, they only emit water back again, which comes back into the system, into our environment. So in that way, the hydrogen fuel cell is the purest electric vehicle that you can have anywhere in the world.
All right, Rohit, can we expect any 200cc scooter this year?
I highly doubt it. Honda might bring out a maxi scooter. That I'm not sure the Forza, if it's going to come out. They've been talking about it. So if that comes out, yes, that's the only scooter that you can expect above the 200cc mark. But apart from that, no, nothing. The Aprilia scooter that just came out, the SXR, they are also capping it at 160. They are not going to go any higher than that, because I think that kind of a capacity, people then start preferring motorcycles over scooters, and India is not typically a maxi scooter market, so to say. So I doubt if there's going to be anything in that particular capacity that's going to come out.
All right. Mayur says he's heard that Volkswagen will bring the Atlas SUV before the Taygun. Is it true?
Mayur, no, unfortunately, that's not true.
All right, and here's one from Sindhu Nil. He wants to know what, according to you guys, is the best car for ease of driving for a new driver under 6 lakh rupees?
Again, Sindhu Nil, what's according to you guys the best car for ease of driving for a new driver under about 6 lakh rupees? There are plenty of choices again under the 6 lakh rupee bracket, for that matter. Just to get you a good idea, the Magnite could be a good choice for you right now. It's a new car, it's fresh looking, it's a fairly well built vehicle for that matter, and it will come under that price bracket that you specified. So I think that is something that you can look at. Apart from that, what you've also got is you can get the Espresso. Again, another good car for you to get your, for the ease of driving, especially since you're a new driver, to kind of get your hands comfortable, to get yourself stable, to get familiar with driving. There are several other choices also, for that matter, that you can get under that 6 lakh rupee bracket. But I think these are two of the more contemporary choices that are available in this segment at this point in time.
All right. And Suresh wants to know, would you recommend an Indian Altroz Turbo or a German-made Volkswagen Polo Turbo?
Well, Suresh, visit the story that we've got. You'll know again with the Altroz Turbo and the Hyundai i20, which was the better one. And we've also tested the i20 against the Polo, so you will be able to infer, you make your inference, draw your inference from there. But my recommendation is the German Volkswagen Polo Turbo will be the better choice over here.
All right. I think with that, it's time for us to wrap up the Q&A session from this week. So let's just quickly take a look at what we have on the show tomorrow. The show plays tomorrow at 1 p.m. on CNBC TV 18. We have the Altroz iTurbo road test. We have the Aston Martin DBX first look, and we have the Audi Q2, which has been compared to the X1 and the Volvo XC40. So don't forget to tune in at 1 p.m. tomorrow or on Sunday, 12:30 p.m. or 8 p.m. Anything you guys would like to add before we sign out today?
Well, we're heading up into the hills, guys, pretty soon. And while Sony is trying to disguise our excitement, we're all pretty excited. There are some interesting stories coming up, so watch out for our social media feeds. Overdrive on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We will be posting some very interesting information, and that's coming your way very, very soon. Less than a week from now, we are getting into some shenanigans. So watch out for that. Apart from that, have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves, and see you next week.
All right. I'll remind everyone once again, do pick up the latest issue of the Overdrive magazine from the newsstands, or book yourself an online copy. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and turn on the bell icon to get the notifications for our latest road tests and reviews that we upload for you. Until next time, then, stay safe and healthy.
Yeah, and next week, let's see if we can come to you with a
From the hills.
special location. Well, again, we're all fingers crossed. Internet connectivity is up and running and perfectly fine. But for a change, I think all of us will be in the same place, and we will come to you with the live. So this will be a live discussion that we'll have from a very, very unique location. So see you guys next weekend.